Some farmers are still carrying over debt from last year. They're going to have debt from this year, and so it's going to be ugly. I've already heard that auction sites are booked for this fall, and so there's already farmers that are already decided that they're going to hang it up.
It's a double dose of bad this fall for Arkansas soybean farmers. Markets are down and yields are too.
It's not a good scenario because they've spent a lot of money on this crop this year, and some of them just won't be able to pay out just because of the decline in the prices and the reduction in the yields.
Arkansas's soybean harvest began in early September without any orders from the world's largest buyer, China. That changed last week when it bought 3 U.S. soybean cargoes just before President Trump met with China's leadership and agreed on more trading.
It sounds like that China's going to try to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans between now and January. Potentially has agreed to buy around 25 million metric tons over the next 3.5 years, or maybe about 3 years. Just with that news in the last week, we've seen commodity prices go up a little bit. So that's good news.
But that's still just a drop in the bucket compared to where we've been, the last several years. China is buying pretty much all their beans from Brazil. They're building a large port, mainly for export of soybeans. And then I think China has gone in and kind of helped their infrastructure on transportation and things like that. And so I think China is investing some of their money into the Brazilian infrastructure to try to gain a little bit more foothold in Brazil to get that market. And so we're struggling, just because we don't have that big market that we've had the last several years. Then hopefully some things will change and we can start pushing some more soybeans toward China.
The final yield numbers on this year's soybean crop in Arkansas are not available due to the government shutdown. But farmers across the state say their bushels per acre this year are nothing to brag about. In fact, for some of the dryland bean farmers, particularly in east and northeast Arkansas, their yields have been single-digit sad.
We had a kind of pretty much 2 crops. We had a very early crop that had some stress on it because of the rain, and then we had some pretty late planted beans. And so because of the droughty conditions we had, even though we have irrigation capability, the beans just struggled. And so talked to a farmer, he said his neighbors were harvesting single-digit bushels, so 0 to 10 bushels. And with the input cost, that's really not even breaking even when you're having yields in the teens and single digits.
Some people say, well, we've got to get our costs down. Well, in an inflationary environment that, we have inflation forever. So we'll either have to have a better price through the marketplace or either through some type of support mechanism from the government, But it's what it's going to have, long term there.
Costs are not going down.
No. The law of economics are bigger than any politician or political party, So I don't foresee costs, going down, and I'm not saying they couldn't back off 1 or 2%, but we need a 20% reduction, and that's not going to happen.
Farmers have been struggling not only with high prices, but just high interest rates. Rent for land is really high. Now we're looking at really low commodity prices, and that's just what we know now. We may learn more. We may see more people having to file for that Chapter 12 bankruptcies. We had more in the first half of this year, in 2025, than we have in the previous years.
Talking to some of these older farmers, this is worse than probably what 1986 was. And there was some of those old farmers that still remember that, and this is as bad, if not a little bit worse than then.
The biggest thing back then, I would say, and will happen again this time, they ran older machinery for a long time and just learned to live with what they had until things got better. And it took a good while, but there was 5 or 6 years during the 80s that it was just beyond comprehension. But by the late 80s, things had started to improve.
We're going to try to do our best this winter to give farmers, all the information they need to, if they are going to stay in next year, to produce a, economical crop and be able to stay in it for the long run. But it's going to be tough this fall.